So hopefully by now you have some really interesting sounds for your game. However, there may be sometimes where you want just a single sound to happen when you walk into a specific area, and that's what we're going to cover in this video. So I'm sort of zooming in here. When you walk past this building with the light in it, if I can just, yeah. So it's just this building with the two doors with the light, and we're walking past this car. Imagine that when we walk past here, it actually sets off a sound. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to do that. This video is going to involve a little bit of scripting. Okay, so the first thing we do then is, let me just click on my assets. We're just going to basically put in the sound the same as we've done previously. Okay, so that's just game object, 3D object and cube, and let's just sort of move this into an area where we can expect to sort of walk into it, roughly about there. And I might actually just make this cube even bigger. Now it is necessary to have this cube, because for this effect to work we do have to actually walk through this object. I might just have it like that. Okay, so we're probably expecting to walk through that. Now what we don't need is a mesh renderer. We don't need to see the cube, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm even going to get rid of the mesh filter as well. All we need is this box collider. This is what we're going to walk through in order to set this object off. And in order to ensure that we don't get stopped by this object, because at the moment it is just a collider, it's just going to stop us walking through it, we can click is trigger. That will allow us to actually walk straight through it, but it is going to enable Unity to detect that we have actually entered the object and walked through it. Okay, so I'm going to change this name from cube to call it single sound object, something like that. Okay, so that's just there. Now what we need is a sound inside of the single sound object. So once again, game object, 3D object, cube. Now it really doesn't matter where you put this one, it's fine, as long as it's relatively close. For this one we're going to get rid of everything, so it's basically an empty game object. And I'll just call this one shot. You can call it anything you like. And just ensure that the one shot is inside of the single sound object. Alright, so it's a child of that. Let's click component, audio, and audio source. And I'm just going to find some audio, let's say some hits. Now let's say that we wanted hit drama. Okay, you wouldn't want that looping over and over again. It's more like a one-shot type audio sound. So I'm just going to click and drag the hit drama into audio clip. And I'm actually going to leave this one at 2D. Alright, so that when we walk away from it, it doesn't get quieter. So I'm only going to play once. Ensure that play on awake is checked. Do not check loop. Okay, so you only want that to happen once. Now if we click on drama, we can see that this lasts roughly 6 seconds, 0.125. Alright, so we only want this to happen once. So after it's played, we actually want to destroy this object. And we're going to do that with a bit of code. Okay, so we are actually going to put some code on this object. So let me go to, I think it's flooded grounds. Oh, I don't think I've created a folder yet for my objects, have I? No, I've kind of put everything in this folder in scenes, which I probably shouldn't have. So I'm going to right click on here, click create and folder, and just put my scripts. Great, so right click, create, and we're going to create a C# script, and let's call this one shot sound. No spaces, and I'm capitalizing each word. Okay, and then I'm going to double click on this and it should open in Microsoft Visual Studio. If it's the first time that you've used it, you'll probably have to log in. It's your same login that you use to actually start up Unity. Okay, so this is what our C# script looks like. The first thing we need is to assign that sound to this script. So to do that, we're going to create a serialized field. Now, the great thing about this is you type half of it and you get the object come up in the help field. So you just press enter and that automatically completes it for you. Space, it's going to be a game object. It's already auto-completing. I'm going to press enter. And I'm just going to call this, you can call it anything you like. I'm going to call it sound source. Maybe not spelled like that. Sound source. Okay, just like that. As I say, you could call it anything you like. You could call it, you know, I don't know, big tree. It really doesn't matter. It's just a name that is associated with this game object. Okay, don't need start or update because we're not going to be using those, so we can just highlight them and delete them. Or just use backspace. So it's going to be an on trigger function that we're going to be calling. So it's void on trigger enter. On trigger enter. Have I spelled something wrong? I have. I've put too many R's in there. On trigger enter. There we go. Space, and then it's going to be collider other. Okay, and there we go. Press enter. I'm going to open the curly brackets. And now what we need to do is ensure that only the player can actually trigger this sound. We don't want this sound being triggered if, for example, an enemy walks into it. So we do that by comparing tags. So we're going to type if other dot game object dot compare tag, and then we need to tell it what tag to compare. So this is inside of quotation marks, and we're going to say player. Okay, and it auto completes pretty much everything for us. I'm going to press enter and open some new curly brackets. Okay, so now what we need to tell it is to actually enable this sound, this sound source. So we're going to type that. So sound source dot game object, and it's a lowercase g, game object dot set active. Okay, and we need to tell it what to do with the set active. Is it going to be true or is it going to be false? Well, in this case it's true because it's going to switch it on. And we'll just put a semicolon on the end to tell Unity that we're done with that command, to run that command. And then we're going to tell it to destroy the object after it's played. So that's destroy, open brackets, game object, comma, and then how long it should take for it to destroy it, which is obviously the float that's highlighted there. So we know it lasts roughly 6.1225 seconds or something like that. So I'm going to say after 7 seconds I want it to destroy so that it can never play again. Okay, and that's it. That is our first script completed. So we're going to click File and Save Assets. Okay, and that will save the script. Now it starts to compile that script at the bottom there. We just have to make sure there's no errors. So click on your console. We've got this message. It's because this one-shot sound source hasn't been applied yet, which we're going to do now. So, so let's click on single sound object. We're going to click and drag the one-shot sound below the box collider. So now it's got the script attached to it, and we're going to drag this one shot into the slot, okay, into the sound source. And now we're going to click on one shot and we're going to switch it off. Alright, so it's not active. Now when our player walks into this single sound object, it will enable the one shot, which will then play the audio once, and it will destroy it after 7 seconds. However, we have to make sure that our player is tagged as player. So let's find the FPS controller. And at the moment the tag is saying untagged. Alright, so just click on that and ensure that that is tagged player. Okay, great. So that should now work. And that's how you set up these one-shot sounds that you just want to play once only. And you can put those wherever you like. But just be aware that sounds do take up a great deal of memory. So let me actually just put this inside of the sounds object there. So we've already got quite a lot of sounds going on. You may have more sounds than me, or maybe less. But Unity obviously has to load all of those into the memory, so you probably don't want too many. And it is, the more sounds you've got, the longer it's going to take for your level to load. Okay, but we should be fine with this many. So in the next video I'm going to do a walkthrough and we're going to test this out to make sure that it works.